every track I've heard that has like rainforest sounds in the background is like an absolute banger of a track.
I look onto your Instagram and I'm like, whoa, okay. Like even Flo Dan rapped on over one of your beats. I was like, whoa.
I probably rely on myself because of the training I've had. So you've got to think about, okay, what am I really interested in? Because it will be like slightly different to what everyone else, to the influences everyone else has. Like, yeah, it's mainly DJing where the big bucks are. Like, I think it's a cheat to make a really good track is start with like
one, get the job done, tell them I'm a stun, not a just come, body better run, guys better hide, body up and die, this I dump, everybody's got fly, most of them lie, don't 4 points wanna be like me, unlikely, one of them bump bottles that every like me. 2, silence evidently. 3, drop your ghost MC. 4, ever bring more man, kill 'em with 1, send them to the cemetery. 2, silence evidently. 3, drop your ghost MC. 4, ever bring more man, kill 'em with 1.
Hi everybody, welcome back to our up and coming podcast where we talk all things electronic music with our amazing guests who've been there and seen it all, right? It's me, Nastia, and Luke, your up and coming hosts, and our guest today.
Delian Sound.
Yes! So Dylan, could you introduce yourself? Who are you? What's your background? What are you up to?
My name's Leon. I'm from London originally and just moved to Cambridge during lockdown, really. So yeah, I've been here for a few years, but home in London.
How you been enjoying Cambridge so far?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, not a lot going on in lockdown, obviously, but that's kind of when I started my Delian Sound projects. And yeah, just had a lot of free time to really hone in on like producing dance music, which was something I wanted to try for a while. And yeah, it kind of took off.
Nice. So how come Cambridge? What drew you to come from London?
Yeah, yeah, it's a funny switch, isn't it? Before I was in Cambridge, I was studying in Amsterdam. And just before I moved to Amsterdam, I met my now partner. He's from Cambridge originally. And so yeah, the plan was always that I was going to move back in with her when I'd finished my studying in Amsterdam. Mm-hmm.
So like, okay, let's rewind from the beginning. How did you start with? Because you do electronic music, very good. I really like your tracks.
Yeah,
big
we
fan.
loved it.
How did all of that start? What was how did you develop your interest with electronic music, just music in general, DJing maybe?
Yeah, specifically electronic music. I kind of got into that in secondary school. A few of my friends were into like drum and bass, or dubstep was really big in my final years of school. Yeah, and so we had like a little group of friends who were really into dance music, showing each other stuff. I also like went out to my first club night at Fabric.
Ooh, wow. First and over to Fabric.
Yeah, so like going in hard. But I had like an amazing time there.
Oh, who was it at Fabric?
And I think it was Icicle, who's a drum and bass artist. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there were some others, but I don't know. I was just like overwhelmed by the whole experience. I wasn't really paying attention to like who was playing or anything.
Yeah, makes sense. And back then, Fabric was actually legit, not like it's now. So you've probably seen it at its best.
Yeah, I think so.
And so, have you always like had an interest with drum and bass, or did you start with maybe another genre?
I mean, my dad plays piano, so I grew up with a fair bit of like classical music. Also, bits of hip hop like MF Doom, Madlib, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I suppose that kind of helped me get into sampling, listening to lots of hip hop and like figuring out what samples work, or like how a sample can like transform a song, things like that. Which I kind of like took into my electronic stuff as well, because I really love the art of sampling as well.
I can hear it from your tracks. Because I'll say like, let me change views. I'll say this, like, we met on the Up and Coming. You're very nice guy. Very good set. And then a couple of months later, I'm like putting some posts on social media, I'm tagging you. I look on your Instagram and I'm like, whoa, okay. He's got stuff on SWL 2-ton. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. I look more and I'm like, oh, okay, he's got stuff on like Blue Dollar Bills. And then I was like, okay. I started seeing how like brand DJs and like Keep Hush sets start playing your stuff. Like, wow, that's pretty good.
It was like more recent, but yeah.
Like, you're probably like one of the biggest artists we've interviewed so far, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think definitely.
How is that? Okay, because I'm very interested in how did all of that happen? Like, how did you go from posting on SoundCloud to getting featured? You like even Flowdan rapped on over one of your beats. I was like, whoa, like that's pretty big. How is the story there?
Yeah, I mean, I had been producing like bits and bobs of dance music since I was at secondary school, but I hadn't really had a chance to fully focus on it, like because I was studying in that until lockdown. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start this new alias, Delian Sounds. And yeah, I just had enough time to like really dedicate to it. So when you're starting out, you know, you make like a lot of tracks which are kind of just practice, and that's like one piece of advice I would give to new producers is like try and like finish all your tracks, because you're going to learn something new with every single track that you make. Yeah, and I was just lucky that one of those first tracks is a track called Noah's Still Dancing. Yeah, that got picked up by some quite big DJs like Isco. He usually plays like a lot of grime and stuff, but it was his friend Jack that who like showed him this tune, and he was like, I think this tune would work really well in a grime set. It's not really grime, it's like quite heavy breaks, but it's at 140. And yeah, Isco played it in a few like festivals and things like that, and so that release got a lot of attention through Isco, really. Yeah.
Nice. How would you say, so if I'm a DJ or like I'm a producer and I released a track, how can I make sure that it gets this attention of other DJs or like bigger DJs?
So you do want to send your tracks out to DJs who you think would be interested in it. You can find their email addresses sometimes easily, like on Instagram or something, or sometimes you have to do like some real digging to get their contact details. But obviously, don't just send it to loads of people. Do think about, okay, who's actually going to be interested in the style I'm making, and send it to them.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever receive yourself some demos that like producers would send you?
Yeah, like usually just record labels I've released on already. Yeah, labels will send me like new things that are coming out. But that's the thing, like I love listening to stuff, but I am really more of a producer than a DJ. And so like I love listening to tunes people send me, and like if they want feedback or anything, I'm happy to do that. But yeah, I need DJ like once every few months or something. So unfortunately, I don't have like a massive opportunity to play these tracks all the time. Yeah.
That's fine. At least you get very popular DJs playing that. So that's good. And in terms of, I had like a couple of questions, like, because you've published stuff on EC2A, for example. I really like some of their releases.
Free downloads, yeah.
And so like, how does that start? Because yeah, you've also got stuff on Outhouse and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Outhouse was the first label. I did 2 EPs with them. Those were like my first 2 releases. I'm trying to think how EC2A came about. I think I sent them some demos, and it was like a long process finding tracks, you know, because they can be quite selective. Loads of people send them tunes. Maybe that's another thing to mention, like don't be disheartened if like labels don't get back to you and stuff, because the volume of stuff they're sent, like, you know, they've got huge amounts to choose from, and it might not be that your track is bad or anything. They're just being like super pernickety about what they want to put out. But yeah, after a few goes with EC2A, like, and they're busy as well, like EC2A is really busy, but finally like a few tracks landed. So yeah, one came out as a free download about 6 months ago or something, and I do have, hopefully I'm allowed to say, I do have
We'll bleep it out.
a release coming up with them at some point. But yeah,
Ooh, nice.
yeah, I don't have like a timeline yet.
That's the exclusive you get from this podcast.
True.
Oh, quite cool. Could you explain a little bit how it works with labels? Because you don't have a contract, like you don't sign with them for like 5 or 10 releases, or do you? Or is it more like one release? And you also mentioned that the one that you had was a free download. What does it depend on? If it's like free or you kind of sell it through Bandcamp or whatever?
Yeah, I think that's like having 5 or 10 releases locked in with a particular label is quite old school. Maybe with like a huge label like Sony or something, you might have that. But yeah, with these more underground electronic labels, most of the time you just get a contract for that specific release, drawing out the terms, and like usually it's a 50-50 split. That's what I've seen with most labels. Like, yeah, you get 50% of the sales and they get 50% of the sales.
That's pretty... I thought it was something like 30% maybe. That's pretty harsh.
Yeah. Sometimes they want you to like, they need to have like made back the cost from like mastering and things like that first. So then there's like a threshold, and then after that, you start getting your money.
So what is the main benefit of releasing not independently but with a label?
They do like a lot of the promotion for you, and they'll sort an artwork for you. It's really like, being able to get your music to more followers, or like followers who aren't in your specific circle, I reckon. But yeah, I have a few tunes which I've been sending to labels for ages, and it's not really landed anywhere. So those tunes, I probably think I will release myself at some point soon.
Mm-hmm. Have you had experience releasing independently before, or is it going to be some of your first times?
I think that'll be my first one.
Cool, exciting.
So I was gonna ask about that. So you've always managed to release through a label.
Yeah, so far.
Right.
Yeah.
How many? So I'm guessing you probably have like, how many tracks do you have that you can't release through a label, more or less?
I have quite a few like dubsteppy tracks, or like 140 tracks. So maybe 3 or 4 of those. And some like breaks things. Also like maybe I could find a label that was like just starting out, who wanted to release some stuff, who would be happy. But I've got to think like, okay, they're going to take 50% of the cut, and would I get just as much exposure releasing it myself?
Mm-hmm.
Like probably. So
makes sense. Yeah, at this point, it's
So,
interesting.
Yeah, my other questions was like, okay, it's a bit taboo, but in terms of, okay, you don't need to say exact figures, obviously, but in terms of like money that it has generated, like how much, like your releases, it's a bit straight to the point, but.
No, it's fine. I think it's good to discuss as well, because the Outhouse Sounds ones, because they've had like a lot of plays by big DJs and stuff, I do get like a couple £100 every 6 months, which is like quite good, really, for releases, unless you're like some huge producer, I think. But it's still like nowhere near as much as you would get as like a regular DJ. So that's kind of like something I'd like to build up, because I don't think many like mid-level or like just starting out producers make enough money to live on, for sure. Like, it's mainly DJing where the big bucks are.
Do you rely on that money, or is it just a bonus?
No, it's just like something nice that comes in like every few months.
And would you say like it mostly comes from streaming, or maybe like Bandcamp downloads?
No, it's mainly Bandcamp. So please, like, DJs, do buy your stuff on Bandcamp, because we get like, the producers get a lot of money through that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So I also had like questions on, because you've developed a sound, the Lion sound. Okay, that was terrible. How did that come? Because I've listened to a couple of your releases, and there's like some synths that you always use, like wub, like bass synths. Some of them you've also have some like little, maybe tag. Is it this one sound that is always the same, like a something like that?
I know what you mean.
How did your sound develop from the first release to the last?
So yeah, as for the bass sounds, I'm usually trying to go off like some early dubstep stuff, like in the early 2000s, like very
Sounds like
very like heavy bass kind of
Scream
things.
or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, things like that. And they had like specific synths back then that they used, but you can find like plugins that emulate these synths nowadays, or maybe if you're lucky, like you can take a sample from the actual song if there's a bit with a clean bass. So yeah, that's the kind of bass sounds I'm usually trying to emulate. But yeah, as for the like bleeps and bleeps, they're from the Radiophonic Workshop. Have you guys heard of that?
I think you did a
No.
Instagram story kind of explaining
Yeah.
a bit, but
Yeah, I love.
Could you explain us again?
Sure. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I have no idea.
So my name Delian Sound is from Delia, Derbyshire. He was a like early electronic pioneer at the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, which was like a kind of sound. They did a lot of sound for TV shows and films in the late 60s and early 70s, and all like sci-fi kind of things. So in particular Doctor Who, which Delia Derbyshire did the main like soundtrack for, the theme tune. And yeah, I kind of decided you need something where people can recognize you like as an artist. That's really useful. Like a really good example is MF Doom. Like, you know, an MF Doom track straight away when you hear it, I reckon. Because he's built up like a whole persona in that. So yeah, I knew that was a useful thing to have as an artist, and that was like one of the first things I wanted when I launched Julian Sound, is to like make it instantly recognizable by these weird like sci-fi sound effects from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop.
That's really cool. Do you think it's something that you deliberately thought about, or was it just how you used to do tracks and you noticed that you have this tendency?
No, it was a conscious choice for sure, because I knew it'd be like, yeah, something that made me like slightly different to like a lot of the other music that was going on.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like restricted by this choice? That sometimes you don't feel like that, but you kind of have to do it.
I mean, I think I've got a range. It's not like I'm trying to make sounds. I'm not trying to make tracks specifically all from those sounds. I can like taper it. You know, sometimes it's just like one or two bleeps in a track, or sometimes like it kind of holds the whole track together. So yeah, I don't feel like it's restrictive most of the time.
How would you say people who are just starting producing and they want to find their own sound, what is the best strategy to approach it? Should you look for inspirations, or should you see what you've done before and notice a pattern?
I mean, both those things can be useful. I think, yeah, there will be something, because no one's had exactly the same influences that you've had. So you've got to think about, okay, what am I really interested in? Because it will be like slightly different to what everyone else, to the influences everyone else has. And yeah, that should give you some unique thing. And then, you know, if you can think of some like gimmick or something, even though it seems cheesy, to like make your thing like slightly different to everyone else's, like that, I think that's a good thing to start with.
Like a producer kind of
tag.
tag?
Yeah, producer.
Do you
for
have
sure.
one?
Well, it would be like the bloops.
Yeah, that's what I said. Kept being repeated. I was like, okay. I just realized it's Delian Sound, not Delian
No,
Sound.
it's okay.
Delian, okay.
I mean, people's like pronounce it all different on the radio, like a lot of Delian sound. But yeah, it's Delian Sound after a Delia Derbyshire. Yeah,
Because I thought it was the lion, because like Leon, right?
yeah.
Like the Leon Sound. I was like,
The
yeah,
Leon
I was like, yeah, that's pretty smart. But yeah, no, I think Delian is smart, because I have heard her name in classes before. I saw your Instagram post where you like,
Yeah.
okay. Can you like explain that, but like more or less in like what for some of your tracks, what is like your inspiration apart from her? Say, because you use a lot of like literally like jungle, like Amazon jungle.
true.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like an Inception. They like jungle with jungle.
Yeah, I mean, that specifically, like, just a lot of old dubstep tracks that I love from like the early 2000s have like little rainforest things going on in the background. And it's kind of like a trick. Maybe this is another tip for new producers, but like every track I've heard that has like rainforest sounds in the background is like an absolute banger of a track. Like, I think it's a cheat to make a really good track is start with like a little like rainforest background.
A little rainforest,
like,
yeah.
It's always good for some reason.
That's
Yeah.
it too. Man, how do you normally find those sounds? Like free sound or YouTube?
Free sound is good. There are like really professional sound artists who go out like in the Amazon, for example, and like, you know, do really detailed microphone recordings. You can find those on Bandcamp. But yeah, you can for sure get like good sound effects on free sound in places like that as well.
So speaking of production, so you open up your DAW. Wait, what DAW is?
Yeah,
what's
on
your
Logic.
DAW? Logic. Alright, let's go.
Oh no.
Logic is the best. I love Logic. Okay, so you open Logic, blank canvas. What is your starting? How do you start? What
Yeah,
is
like guide
the
us through your
Yeah, yeah.
creative process.
creative
Okay.
process?
Okay, I'm going to close down Logic because that's not actually step one. Step one is like making a folder on your laptop of like influences or like directions the music could go in or like little samples you want to use. I find that like a really good way of starting because then you can like start thinking about what you want to write before putting any like dots on the page or anything. So you're kind of building up a whole soundscape of what the track's going to be, before you drop anything into Logic. So that's kind of step one. And sometimes I spend like a couple weeks doing that. So I've got like a really nice folder of sounds where I can see like, what I want to be in the track, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like your approach, even like starting with the name that you choose for the project and creative process, is very strategic. Why do you think it is like that?
I suppose, I just found like what works for me. Like maybe different genres or, some people like to start with just like they've got an idea for a track that they know is going to work. And so maybe in those cases, like you could go straight into like writing something. But yeah, for me, because I like my music to be like more soundscapey or have like different sections, move between different moods. I know like I might mess it up or I might sacrifice things if I start like straight in Logic, like trying to do the whole track straight away.
Have you ever done that? Like just freestyling in a way?
Probably when I've done some like collabs with people, like I've not done a lot of collabs, but sometimes we just try writing something straight away for fun. Yeah.
Would you more prefer like a solo writing or do you like writing sessions with people?
I like both. I do like solo writing until the point where I'm like, oh, I really need to check this thing with someone. Like, I really need to ask for advice. And then it's like super useful to have someone with you. I can't really say a preference. I like both.
Yeah. What are some of the things that are different when you write with somebody else that are not as straightforward,
Yeah. Sometimes, I think music is quite a like inherently difficult thing to describe. And so when the other person has an idea and they're trying to tell you like what the idea is or like show you what they were thinking of, it can be quite hard for that not to get lost in translation. Or sometimes like they'll say something to me and I really can't imagine how that's going to work. But then we try it out and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, it does work. So
That's
one
quite
of the
cool.
things,
That's really interesting how you brought it up. Because, like, I've been talking also with a friend yesterday about it. How, you know, we use these words to describe music like groovy or like punchy or ephemeral. And then you need to put these words into the sounds. And, like, you know, what is ephemeral? What is it, a kick? Is it a hi-hat?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, it's very like abstract in
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah, for
making tracks.
Yeah.
Have you ever like, so do you send your tracks for feedback and stuff? Ever?
See, I don't like, not now. Like maybe when I started on my first few tracks, I was like showing it to a lot of people and being like, "Yeah, what's this like?" But I think yeah, the best feedback I've got is probably from labels, and labels. Some labels are like really nice, and when they don't want your tracks, but they think they're really good, like they will give you some like specific feedback, or like these are the things I really like, but it's just not the sound for my label.
Interesting.
What's like the worst feedback you've gotten?
That's hard. I mean, if people don't like tracks, they just won't say anything. That doesn't mean like if they don't say anything, it's a terrible track. Like not necessarily, but yeah, like no one's being mean. I've not met any mean
good.
people.
That's nice to say, because
Yeah.
it comes back to what we were talking about, like labels and stuff. Like, so you like create Noah's Still Dancing, great tune. I've played it in some sets, got to admit, it's very good. So you got that track and you start emailing labels. How did that work? So
Yeah, so it took a while to get my like correct email template on sending out to labels, but you don't want to write too much. You just want to write, you know, what you're interested in, what's the idea behind these tracks. You know, if you're sending out like a little EP or something, a 4-track thing. Yeah, but only really like 2 or 3 sentences or something, because they're not going to bother reading like a whole page.
What is the state of the tracks when you send them? Is it demo or is it mastered? Is it already mixed?
Yeah, so I send them like a rough master that I've done. Like I'm nowhere near like a mastering engineer, or not even really like a mixing engineer. I barely know what I'm doing, but like, yeah, they should be like loud enough to play out, basically. Because, you know, before the label signs them, they might want to try playing them in clubs to see what the reaction is, things like that. So yeah, have a little go, like getting it, like mastering it yourself, like even if it's kind of rough, that's okay. And then if they like them, they'll ask for the pre-masters and then get a professional to master it.
Okay. How do you feel about sharing your demos on SoundCloud to kind of public? So not only sending them to masters, but having this separate folder on SoundCloud where you just post your demos.
You mean like to public?
Yeah, to public,
Yeah.
but hoping, like, kind of, I guess, also sending them to record labels, or just hoping that you'll get discovered through those demos on your SoundCloud.
Yeah, I think for more underground music, there's still like a want for things to be kind of like exclusive. So yeah, probably for the kind of stuff I make, like I wouldn't put all my demos up on SoundCloud for everyone to listen to. Partly because like maybe I still want to tweak them and stuff. Maybe they like listen to a track 3 months later and be like, oh, I should have changed that. And yeah, you don't want to have like a finished product out there when it's not actually finished. But yeah, there's also this exclusivity thing. Like labels want tracks that maybe haven't been heard by anyone else. That can be really, really something that they want sometimes, or something that they look for.
Yeah, because why I'm asking also, because now with the rise of social media and kind of the role of TikTok and Instagram and short form content in promoting your music,
Yeah.
it's very common to tease people with the little bits of your songs?
I think that's okay. I think that's okay to like post little clips and things, but yeah, I wouldn't upload the full thing before it was getting released somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does going to social media, how does that like affected your image, let's say? So like, did you start with only like making music and then sending, or did you also like start out an Instagram account and a SoundCloud account?
Yeah, I did start with like Instagram and SoundCloud, and I was just posting little DJ mixes. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't really get many followers until I had my first release out. To be fair, there probably is a way to do that, and that's kind of like one of the things I wish I was taught at uni, like social media promotion and things like that, because that's like a really useful skill to have. And I see other producers who have had that as part of their course, like doing really well on social media, like they know exactly what to do. And you guys obviously know what to do with your like up and coming page. But yeah, I did not have that like at all in my uni course, which is a bit of a shame.
Oh, so what uni course did you study?
Yeah,
because you studied in Holland, Amsterdam.
Yeah, I studied music in Amsterdam at the conservatorium. Yeah.
What instrument?
I studied composition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it was all quite like old school.
So you come from a very like traditional music background.
True.
Would you say, because we had our last speaker, she was also like coming from she played the violin and stuff. Would you say, how much has it helped you with your production?
Yeah.
Like knowing music theory and stuff?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, it definitely helps. Yeah, in terms of like knowing what notes are going to go with other notes, like what chords, things like that, how to build chord progressions. But in electronic music, there's this whole other side of like mixing, and how to get sounds to sound as good as they can, which wasn't covered at all in my course. And like dance music is really like a mix of both of those. So I have production students sometimes come to me because I offer like private lessons, and they've done like a whole sound engineering course, for example, but they really know like very little about theory. And then like we kind of learn off each other a little bit. But yeah, starting out, that took me a really long time to get my tracks sounding as good as I wanted them to, or like to stand up to other people's tracks, really. Mm-hmm.
How was it? Were you always confident in your music, or how did it evolve for you? Your kind of confidence to show what you did to other people.
Luckily I have my partner who I live with, and so she has to listen to like loads of tracks that were probably like really bad at the beginning. But some tracks, she was like, this one's really good. And yeah, I think just being able to show it to like a group of friends or like one or two people, it is a different experience listening with someone else as opposed to listening just by yourself. I feel like I pick up on vibes without them even saying anything. Like I notice new things when I'm listening with someone else. You're like even more critical, I think. So that's super useful. So yeah, that just show your tunes to lots of people. Definitely what I'd recommend.
Yeah, it's like you're listening with somebody else's ears at the same time with yours.
It's definitely useful.
It's so stressful. Like, what if it's horrible? What if they're gonna think it's bad?
Would you'd say like people are nice, right? They're nice.
But also, like, obviously, you want people to say if there's something really wrong, or there's something particularly like nagging them.
Do you feel like, because your partner? Does your partner have any kind of experience with music, or like how? Yeah,
she's not in the musical fields, but she did play some instruments growing up. But yeah, I think that's kind of like more useful than sending it to a musician, because I want to know how like general people feel about it.
Okay,
Do you know
because
what I
that's very
mean?
different.
Yeah.
Because I was also thinking, like, if you're showing it to somebody who doesn't understand anything about music, can they give you a good feedback, or should you strive to show it to some person who's very good and you kind of like 100% sure that you can take their feedback and it's going to be valid?
Yeah, good question. I think I probably rely on myself because of the training I've had, like previous training, whether like I've got like musician's ears, and so I know hopefully already like what's going to sound good through that frame of reference. So yeah, I'm really looking for someone who's like less of a musician and like see what they think of it as well.
So you've got perfect pitch.
No, I don't have perfect pitch.
It's a rare thing. Okay, so I like to go back. So you start producing first. How do you get into DJing? What kind of picked you in? Like, what was made you interested in DJing?
I done like people had asked me to do a few guest mixes like on radio shows and things like that. So that was my starting. And I think it's totally fine to like ask people if you can do a guest mix on their show. Like if you like a particular show, definitely go ahead and do that, because yeah, that's definitely what I did starting out. And then after my first release, yeah, I got booked for my first live show, which was in Manchester. That's really nice. Yeah, XLR Club.
And how was that process? So like, had you ever touched a controller ever at that point? Or no?
Yeah, so I do have like some like DDJ RR at home, which is quite an old school controller, but you know it does the job and like allows me a bit of practice. But yeah, real CDJs are quite different, obviously. So yeah, there's studios in London that I went to go practice at, like Pirate Studios, before I went to do the gig in Manchester to check like I actually knew what I was doing. Yeah.
How was that? Because I'm tempted to like book one. They're not that expensive.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cheap. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite simple.
And it also depends on the location. If you want to get the ones that are in the center, they're more pricey, and the ones on the kind of outskirts, they're more cheap.
Yeah.
So I think you can find something.
It's a nice thing to do, like before, say if you're going to a club night in London with some friends, but you want to meet up like a couple of hours before, that's like a really nice thing to go and do. It's a bit of mixing before.
Definitely. Yeah. Maybe one day I'll book a studio. So speaking of music, well, we are speaking of music, obviously. So you sent us 2 tracks. I guess we're gonna go for the one that you. So you sent us
for an exclusive.
The When You Hold Me.
That one.
You didn't make it, but what is that track? Explain a bit, because that's the one you didn't make. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I didn't make. That's quite a special track for me because, yeah, it was one of the first tunes I was listening to when I was listening to dance music back at school. And it's a very early dubstep track on a label called Temper. Yeah, which was like kind of the main dubstep label from the early 2000s. And this track was on their very first release. I think it's the A-sides to their first release, like really the first track they put out. And the group who made it called Horsepower Productions, who had like a lot of members, but their 2 most famous members were Benny Ill and Matt HP. Yeah, who are 2 like real... I really look up to them as producers. And yeah, when you hear this track, it's going to be like maybe a bit different to what you're expecting for dubstep, because it's really leaning much more into the garage side, like garage and break beats. But yeah, this group, Horsepower Productions, were the first group where the term dubstep got coined onto, basically. It was in some old DJ magazine, like the writer, associated dubstep with them specifically, and it kind of grew from there. So
Cool, let's hear it.
New to this. Enough all. You need some protection. Like what?
You want dead? I will kill you. Don't fuck with me.
Yes, yes, yes. That was a very nice tune. I I'm really interested in because you said this was like the first dubstep song.
Yeah, like one of
Uh,
the very earliest. Yeah.
I got really into dubstep before I got into UK garage. So I'm interested in how like this song has nothing, barely any, like it sounds more your sound than it does like what I know of dubstep, like Koki, whatever, all the classical artists.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose Koki, Benga, Scream were like around at the same time as this, but yeah, it's kind of all down to the drums, isn't it? Like the halftime feel really took over from about 2006 or 2008 or something. Like everything had to have a snare on beat three. To be called dubstep. But yeah, what I'm interested in, or what I'm interested in producing, is like the kind of dubstep or garage that has like more like syncopated drum beats. Yeah.
Because dubstep is definitely it's an interesting case where if you ask anybody right now on the street dubstep, they'll think of like Skrillex, like bro step. I call it bro step. It's like mid range, no bass. But it's kind of sad that like there's much more behind dubstep, like more interesting tunes. So obviously like Burial, Burial, it's become very popular now, but it's still like Untrue is still one of my all time favorite artists, like albums.
Yeah. I mean that's like what everyone aspires to be as a producer for sure. Yeah.
So would you say people have you when you like say, oh, I do dubstep and stuff, do you think it affects how people see you?
Most of the time I say that I do like garage and breaks. Yeah. And then like if someone knows what I'm talking about, then I'll be like, yeah, like Horsepower Productions, like the early dubstep stuff. And then that like specifies me more into like the area I'm at. But yeah, for most people, yeah, it's like easier to explain garage and breaks because there's a lot of crossover there.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Okay, we were just during the break we just were talking that all of us apparently are classical musicians, classical trained.
Coincidence.
But you studied in Amsterdam, right?
Mm-hmm.
How was it studying classical music in Amsterdam, which has like amazing techno scene? And basically, did you go out much?
Yeah, I mean, I know like there's some huge like techno clubs like was it Shelter and what's the other one?
The school.
The school. I didn't actually end up going to those though. I went to a lot more like some jungle nights at Melkfeg.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And also there was this cool like artist collective called OT301.
Mm-hmm.
You know them? And they put on like some more bassy dubstep, also reggae nights, things like that. So
How is I wouldn't, because like dubstep and UK garage is something is quite a rare find basically in Amsterdam. Or how did you experience it? How did you find out about those nights?
Yeah, it was just through that specific venue, and I suppose I was following like those UK artists on Instagram or something. So I was checking like when they might be playing.
Mm-hmm. Did this time in Amsterdam introduce you to some new styles or new sounds? Did it influence your production?
I definitely I went to a lot of jazz gigs, which I don't know like if that influenced me a lot at all. But yeah, like that's one of the music I remember like seeing most often, because there was some really nice jazz clubs, and I had like a lot of friends from uni who were like up for going to that at night. Yeah,
It's nice. I like jazz. So, I forgot what I was gonna ask. Hello. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, so you started going? So before you had you said the lines Dillian sound was like a project. What was your names before? What was you like?
Like any other? Did you have any other projects?
yeah. There's one called "You're Not Gonna Find Anything Now" because I deleted it all. So it got wiped. But yeah, there was one called "No Face," like a No Face from Spirited Away. You know that.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. Oh, I love.
And also before that, when I was at school, it was called "Lush." Yeah.
And it's a project, right? Were those more also UK garage breaks, or was it other genres?
Yeah, Lush was definitely like a bit more dubsteppy, and then No Face a bit more breaks and garagey. But yeah, like I said, I didn't really have the like proper time to dedicate to it, so I was really just making 1 or 2 tunes a year, mostly like for myself for fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, without really seeing it like going anywhere. I wasn't sending the tunes to labels or anything.
When did you decide? Okay, I'm just gonna wipe everything, start over.
Yeah, and take it seriously.
Take it seriously.
Yeah, probably during lockdown. Yeah, because like I didn't have any other projects going on, and I was like, okay, I've got time to like dedicate to this now. So, yeah.
How did lockdown affect your life in general? Like,
Yeah.
would you say it was good or bad, or what's your experience?
I mean, it definitely like made me think about how am I still going to be writing music when no one's performing music. Do you know what I mean? That was one big step away from the classical world, because I could have written pieces, but they weren't going to get performed anywhere. So yeah, that's one thing I really love about like electronic or dance music, is you've got total control over the performance. Like your laptop is doing the performance, and it's going to be as good as you can make it. Basically, you're not relying on someone else to like create the music for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Were you writing operas mostly?
I did one ballet. But yeah, just general like ensemble music. Yeah, like various.
Yeah, true. You always need musicians to play it for you. I mean, otherwise it's just not the same.
Dillian classical when? When is the Dillian opera?
Yeah, I still have like some friends like in that field, and they're like, yeah, you should really find a way. You know what it is? It's like I would need a really good sound system in like a classical space, which doesn't really exist at the moment. Because I'd want to mix like samples from electronic stuff and a live instrument, for example, like a cello, maybe.
Oh, this is quite cool. It's like the guys did, I think, a collab at Hidden Rooms. It was DJ set and jazz music.
Oh, the slip disc and jazz.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I don't know if it was at the same time. Or just just DJ after the jazz music.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
nothing cool. But
Is that
I thought
tonight? Or is that's tomorrow?
No,
or
it
something?
happened, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
No,
But I think they do
there's
it
another
regularly.
one.
Yeah,
Oh,
like a
okay, it's
bossa
like an
nova.
event. Okay, makes sense. But I think the fusion of it is really interesting, and probably because world moves so much towards interdisciplinarity, it's probably something very interesting to kind of discover
Yeah, like
as an artist.
I've never seen them. Like I've seen people like remix classical tunes
Yeah.
to varying degrees of success. 'Cause some of them are just not good. But it's interesting your idea of like mixing. Yeah, like not remixing, but like mixing electronic with classical. I mean, if you ever need a cello, like
Yeah, or piano.
or piano, yeah. Like,
Well, Kanye did an opera and staged his own opera, so
Oh,
you
yeah,
can combine if you wish.
And it also makes me think of like Goldie. You've seen Goldie with like his live band now.
oh yeah.
He's like
It's
playing everything live.
weird.
Yeah.
I love Goldie on it. Okay. So, any tips for you've been dropping some tips
Yeah.
throughout, but like any other tips for producers starting out?
Who want to be more like gain publicity,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
say, and
in that
feel
area.
like they're doing something more legitimate.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's always good to like find someone who you think does social media really well or like promoting really well and kind of look at what they're doing and try and copy basically. A lot of music is about copying. Like I'm trying to copy Horsepower Productions a lot of the time. And yeah, that I'm sure that trick works with like social media as well. Like figure out what their posting strategies are, how they're promoting themselves, and like just do the same. It should work.
Like still like an artist.
Yeah, exactly.
And more for the aspect of producing, because you said you start with a folder. What are some
Right.
other things that you do in your productions?
Okay. I mean, let's say I've got the folder of sounds. One thing, that I like having going on in most of my tracks is like some background noise, which is often a rainforest because we know that makes great tracks. But it could be like a cityscape or like some rain in the background or something like that. That's really nice. Like something going on behind all the other elements in your track can help it like glue together, basically. And yeah, some people like to start writing music at the drop, like, whereas, I found sometimes it's better to start writing at the start, maybe because we're like classical musicians. And it's like really counterintuitive to start like a minute into a track and then work backwards. I think from the like sound palette, I usually go to a bass line next, because in the kind of music I make, the bass line is really what's like driving the music, and it can be like quite melodic sometimes. And then I would try and make a drum pattern that fits with the bass line, and maybe I'll have to tweak the bass line a bit to fit with the drums I want, and like vice versa. So that's a bit back and forth. And then if there's any samples, like melodic samples I want to drop in, I'll try and see how that can work with the drums. And that's kind of like working backwards into the intro, I guess. Lastly, most of the time the last thing I put in is like my radiophonic sound effects, my bleats and bloops, just like for extra touches where I feel like the track needs like just a bit more interest.
More spark.
Definitely. Yeah. And speaking of sounds
And sparks. Should we listen to the
oh
exclusive?
yeah, you sent us exclusive stuff. For this track, okay, so like explain to us a bit like what was the process, like what's the story behind the track?
Okay. This track's called Palmas, and Palmas is actually the name for what flamenco musicians do when they're clapping the beat. Exactly. But also it's kind of like a wordplay because I did another track before this called No Mass, which the two tracks are kind of related. They both have like horn samples in, They both start quite with quite vibey chords. And yeah, they both got like kind of like a Latin feel. So like no mass and like pow mass. Like pow mass is a pal to no mass.
Oh, cool. Oh my god.
Definitely reminded me of home. I like flamenco.
We love that.
All right, Palmas. I was gonna ask, because I've seen some artists, they have like a Dropbox folder or like a private SoundCloud links or whatever. They put all their unreleased tracks. Do you do that, or do you know people, other artists, to do that?
Yeah, I think that's the typical thing to do, like having a Dropbox. A SoundCloud playlist of your unreleased stuff that you can send like just to DJs, for example. And DJs, if they like your stuff, they'll be quite excited to receive that, like a whole folder of things that no one else has heard. Yeah,
definitely exciting.
But then should they be like kind of more or less properly mixed so DJ can play it in a club?
Yeah, like I said, the same as like when you're sending tunes to labels. Do like a quick master yourself. It doesn't have to sound like amazing. It's more the excitement of just having something that's like no one else has got.
Mm-hmm. Have you tried a SoundCloud mastering feature?
No, I have not.
Okay.
And also my friend, he like does a lot more music tech than me. I was like, this is shocking. Don't
really? It's like really bad.
Yeah. I mean, maybe
I've used it. Well, I haven't used it, but I've tried the demo.
Okay.
It's not very good. I think, there's the plugin Isotope Ozone, which is for mastering. They have like a feature where it's like a quote unquote AI that tries to do it. It sounds like that. Okay. But whatever Ozone does, it's always very bad. It's more of like a starting point, because it sometimes like adds an expander limit to it, does some weird compression stuff. Not good. But it's nice. So I'm guessing, your past tracks that you've now released, were those in the folder, let's say?
Yeah, except for like the very first release, because that was before I'd had like before any DJs like really knew me or anything. So then I was just literally just sending out to labels without sending to DJs at all.
And has it helped with like listeners and stuff, giving unreleased tracks to DJs and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Because your name will appear like on their track lists of DJ sets, for example, and then if someone really liked that tune, they'll seek you out to find what that tune was and maybe follow you.
So you have a secret ID folder. I know why they called IDs. It identification.
Identification, yeah, probably.
And because I've heard some DJs, one of them like played on his Keep Hush set. What do you think of people that like rip the Keep Hush set and then they cut up your ID and re-upload it? What?
Yeah, I think like it's likely to not be like very good quality. I think, if I wanted that tune to be up, like a clip of the tune to be up on SoundCloud or something, I would probably do it myself. Yeah, so maybe if you're really keen to do that, you could ask the producer, like, if you're okay to do that, because maybe they've been meaning to do it and they just didn't get around to it. But yeah.
So if it's a small producer,
yeah,
you'd say not do it?
I think contact them.
If it's like, I don't know, Fred again, would he?
Then I'm sure it's fine, because like, yeah, he's making enough money from
it's not gonna impact him much.
And that's nice. I guess do we have any questions? Because we ask people some questions. We always do this. There's always there's one interesting one most of the times.
Okay.
There's one person that keeps asking some
Wow.
interesting.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Maybe send me half one. Oh,
Yes.
you can. No, you can show.
I will send you just so you can read it out.
Hundreds to choose from.
No, not that many. We put all of them from past ones as well. Same.
Okay. I send you.
Yes.
It's so much, but it's something people want.
Yes.
So let's give it to them. So, how do you find balance between personal taste and what crowd wants?
When you're DJing.
Yeah, I guess
When I'm DJing.
when you DJ.
Okay.
Or maybe
Or producing. I
Both,
don't really
both,
know. I
both.
guess both. Yeah.
Let's start with DJing. So, yeah, I suppose it helps to like know the promoter who like booked you or something, or you know, if one of your friends booked you, what kind of nights they usually put on, because the crowd who come for those nights specifically will probably be there to hear a particular kind of music. Sometimes you're lucky, and you know, if it's like a record label who's booked you or something, then you're really there to showcase your own sound, and that's like very heartwarming. But yeah, I suppose like know your promoter and strike the balance in there.
Definitely, because when you came to the up and coming event that we did, maybe we might have one soon. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're planning it. It's in the production phase.
How did that go? Like, did you plan any sort of theme, or because there wasn't really like we didn't ask for anything.
Yeah, you had
that's
full
true.
freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I used it just to try out a couple of tracks that I've been working on, and I wanted to see how they sounded. So that's super useful. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And I saw that you recently did a set. Well, it wasn't recent, but on Planet Wax.
And it works, yeah.
Was that more of your tracks, or was it more like other people's tracks?
Yeah, it was about like I played a fair amount of my own stuff, but that was like all. Yeah, it was almost all like my own sound. To be honest, listening back to it, I could have done more. Like I did play some tunes like more for the crowd, or more for like what I thought the crowds were going to be. But yeah, that set I really should have just stuck to like what I love the most.
Nice, man. I really enjoyed that
Like
set.
you learn, I suppose, the more DJing you do.
And in terms of producing, do you tend to produce more for what is that like? Yeah, more for the crowd, more for your own sound.
Yeah, this is an important thing, I suppose. Like I've definitely made tracks before that I was like, oh yeah, a specific label is really gonna like this, or a specific DJ is really gonna like this, and those tracks like never really do as well as you think. So I think as a producer, it's really important to do first and foremost like what you love producing, and then yeah, because labels and DJs always surprise you, like the thing that you thought was really weird and like you really your own taste, sometimes like that's their favorite track and they play it like all the time. Yeah,
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
do you want to read out the next one?
have the next one. How do you prepare for your gigs? I'm guessing DJ gigs.
yeah. Unfortunately, like I don't do a lot of DJ practice regularly. So it's usually just when I've got a gig coming up, then I'll spend like a week or two practicing before.
That's not bad.
Yeah. It's okay.
So do you have like a list of kind of, you know what you're going to play? You have a list of songs you're going to play?
Yeah, I bring a list of songs, but some of my friends have told me recently that like my list is way too big. Like I bring like 400 tracks and like they're like, no, don't.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I need to cut it down a bit. Yeah.
So do you like really plan your sets, or is it sometimes more like freestyle? Like
What I found works for me is like plan the first couple of blends, like the first 2 or 3 tunes you're going to play, but then after that, you know, see what the crowd is feeling. Kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, and the last question from us. Maybe it's going to become a tradition.
Yeah.
What is your biggest DJ or producer ick?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I wish I'd had time to prepare for that one.
Just say what comes to mind first.
It's probably going to be something about DJing. Yeah, you know what? Like, I still like really appreciate DJs playing my tracks. So like that, put that there to start with. But sometimes if you change the BPM like way, you know, play like 130 BPM track at 170, or like, you know, 140 track at like 110 BPM. I'm like, this is really like straying quite far from where I originally saw the track. And it might work on like some genres or some people's tracks, it works fine. But yeah, the times where I've seen it done at my tracks, I've been a bit like, oh, you know, if I wanted it to be 100 BPM track, like I would have written it at 100 BPM. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Oh God, I would never think about it. You know,
Like, has it happened? Like, you hear that like a DJ played your track, and you're like excited to hear, and then you hear it's like 90
techno
BPM.
instead of
Some they blend. Would you say like them blending it with other tracks would kind of ruin it as well? Maybe.
I mean, there's specific things like that you do at 130 BPM that you don't do at 170, particularly to do with like phrasing and that. Like you would phrase more in 8-bar phrases, which sound like way too fast at 170 BPM. For example, like the track just goes by like super quickly before you've like had a chance to like see any of the musical detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess this.
That was
All
a
the
nice
questions.
talk.
Yeah, thank you, Rod, for coming. I think it was a super interesting and
thanks so much.
insightful episode, and especially about like releasing and reaching out to record labels. I think it's something that not a lot of people talk about, and it can be quite hard for producers or DJs who are just starting out to get this info.
100%, because it's, as you said, labels receive a lot of music. So it's hard to break the ice, get new tracks listened. Yeah, I guess plugs. You can find us at Cam Up and Coming.
Okay, this you got it right, I think. No.
Let's go. Okay. Instagram, YouTube stuff, and before I forget, Leon, where can people find your sound? On
Delian Sound, one word, not DeLion.
Yeah, sorry.
And that tune you heard, Power Mass, is coming out on a label called Dance Regular sometime in spring.
So, exclusive.
Amazing. Excited for it.
Can you, and SoundCloud, people can find you on
Yeah,
SoundCloud?
also on Delian Sound.
Let's hope that people are not going to rip it off from this podcast.
I mean, it's pretty high quality. I'm sorry if people do it. I'm sorry. So yeah, I guess thank you very much for listening in.
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you a
having
lot, everybody, and we'll see you in the future episodes.
Yes.
Bye-bye.